So the other day I watched Inside Out 2. So I thought it'd be a perfect time to talk about Elemental. Because what better time to than a year after its release and no one's talking about it. I thought the teaser trailer was pretty interesting with Ember going through the train and meeting Wade at the end. None of that's in the movie. This is an adventure comedy romance film about the four elements living in harmony, but not really because everything changed when the fire girl fell in love. Someone's definitely made that joke, probably. And some people didn't like that it was only four elements, but I guess Pixar didn't want to do the whole periodic table. Some people wanted like metal and stuff like that. The film starts with Ember's parents actually immigrating to Element City. And yes, that name isn't creative. Doesn't really matter. I mean, we see Bernie and Cinder having a difficult time just navigating the city, trying to find an apartment, taking public transportation, until they find an abandoned building and set up shop. They might have been the first fire people to move there, or maybe one of the first. But as time goes on, Ember is born, and more fire people immigrate into Firetown, which is part of Element City. And as Ember is born and grows, we see her help her dad, learning how to make products, taking care of customers, racist customers, and we see her talent with glass. And while she is young, she has this eagerness of wanting to take care of the shop on her own, and her father's general response is when you're ready. Typical child-parent stuff. But as capable as Ember is with running the shop and making products and deliveries and all that, she has a difficult time handling customers, and honestly can relate. Anyone who's worked in retail or just in general with the public can relate to a customer saying buy one get one free and demanding that they get the free one and not pay for the other one, not understanding how the sale works. It can be frustrating, and even though Ember screams out her anger instead of bottling it up, it does lead to the pipes bursting in the basement. Honestly, the whole red dot sale reminds me of when I worked at Starbucks and one girl left and the other one went on vacation and I had to do everything by myself. Nightmare times, really. The only thing to come out of the red dot sale is Wade bursting through the pipes that shouldn't be having any water in them in the first place. And wouldn't you know it, he's a city inspector. So he cries at a picture of a young Ember celebrating her birthday with her parents and then writes up tickets for a bunch of violations. And he runs like crazy to submit those tickets. Ember chases after him naturally because she doesn't want her dad's shop to close and for him to have nothing. As soon as Wade submits the tickets, he overhears Ember talking about how she's going to let down her dad, which hits him right in the feels. So now that he stopped and listened for a second, he cares. And he invites Ember to come and talk to Fern. But Ember doesn't want to tell him her story and gets embarrassed when Wade tries to explain the situation and burns off all his hair. So these two are off to a rocky start, to say the least. Ember talks to his boss, Gail, and for some reason, Gail says that she's going to take apart the store and find the cause of the leak. I don't know if that's how it would work in the real world, but yeah. So Wade and Ember investigate the leak. They find it. They cover it up with bags of sand, which naturally doesn't hold the doors all that well. And Ember uses even more sand to create tempered glass, which also seems like a temporary solution, but Gail was happy with it. So that's one problem solved of saving the store. So meanwhile, in between taking care of the leak and saving the shop, Ember and Wade start to get to know each other. They go on dates. And while some people didn't like this pairing or claimed they have sibling energy, I just think people have never seen two people become friends and then date before, honestly. They're two people that come from very different backgrounds. And while Wade unintentionally puts Ember in danger sometimes, he is very compassionate and very caring. When they're playing the crying game, he gets her to cry by like confessing his love, more or less. Instead of like, I don't know, hurting her by blaming her for the leaks in her dad's shop. He invites her to dinner at his place, and the place is covered in water. He wants her to see the Vivisteria flower, so he asks her to jump in a bubble and go underwater, where it can easily go wrong and she can die. Also, Wade's building is 212, which I thought was cute because 212 is the degree that water starts to boil. I mean, this is a world where some elements are sentient and some aren't, so who cares about that? But I thought it was a cute detail. And it was nice to see Ember, whose whole world revolves around doing what her parents want or what she thinks her parents want, so they'll be happy, go out and meet people and fall in love and be less angry. And it was nice just to see her make a connection where she can actually be open with them and confront the feelings she's been bottling up. Like, she doesn't really want to run the shop, but she feels like she has no choice but to do something that would only benefit her parents, or what she thinks will benefit her parents. Sure, some people don't really like this whole race allegory thing that's going on in the movie. Like, her dad hates water people. People were really hostile to fire people when he first moved to the city and when Ember was young. And while the city still isn't really designed with fire people in mind, they are less hostile to them in the present day, and I don't know. It made sense in the film. Like, there's so much water. Cinder got hurt when she was pregnant. Ember got hurt from the pipes. It's no wonder she was scared to touch Wade. And yeah, she makes Wade boil when she's like too hot of a temperature, but like, why doesn't that just happen to water people on a hot day? Why are fire people the only reason? Well, it's nice to see like all the elements like mingle together and everything in the end. It would have been nice if more things were done in the city to compromise for fire people in mind. Because yeah, Wade and Ember don't kill each other accidentally, but Ember still has to like carry an umbrella if she's going certain places. Like, if she goes to a game and they do the wave, she can easily just be extinguished. Maybe she's being careless and a train passes by, but oh well. I think another cute scene was when Wade wanted to talk to Ember and he knew he couldn't just show up at her father's store because he hates water. So he got someone to agree to let him pour himself into several vases to go talk to her, and then gets banned from the shop. If it was anyone else, she would have just burned the flowers and be like, no thank you. It was such a long way from when she blew up his hat. And I'd argue she could have not blown up the hat. She has that stupid pamphlet about going out of business, keeping it in her pocket, and the pocket's not burning up anyway. If she can keep a pamphlet safely in her pocket for like a week or two, then she could have just lowered her temperature and not burned the hat, or whatever she did to not burn everything else. Another thing people had issues with were the earth and air people, saying that they didn't play a large role in the movie. And yeah, they play minor roles in the movie, but they're just there as background characters to show that while the city is diverse, they're still not accommodated to all the elements. Some people also don't like that Wade confronted Ember at her father's retirement where she was supposed to take charge of the shop. And her outfit is so cute, by the way. And I kind of agreed with that. Some people don't really like these big public confrontations or grand gestures, especially ones in public. I don't really enjoy the retirement scene, but it had the point to have Wade confront Ember. She rejects him, and he's ready to just travel the world because he can't stand being in the city if he's not with Ember. And Ember leaves but has to return to try to save everybody from the flood. Oh yeah, the flood. Okay, so like another thing people were upset about was how Wade was the one who had a Disney death in the film. But it made sense to give the water guy the Disney death because he can just reform his body like he had in the past. And if Ember extinguished, that's it. I think it'd be a lot harder for, like, maybe there was like a teeny tiny little flame and they threw like fire on it until she came back to life. But I don't know. It made sense for Wade to be the one to evaporate because then it gives Ember the chance to be honest with him about her feelings for him. Then the two run off while she goes and does an internship in a faraway land. And return. They return in the credits. I know the movie's not perfect. I know Wade's like not the greatest love interest, but he's an imperfect person and isn't everyone. Sometimes he puts her in situations, but he also just wants her to enjoy things just as everyone else can. I don't know. I thought it was cute. 7 out of 10. Oh, I think the only character I didn't really like was Claude, just because I've never liked this whole child likes a grown adult thing because of my inability to understand that. Like, it's not exactly very funny. Sure, his screen time's only like 2 minutes, but you can just not put a kid there flirting with an adult. And the one thing outside the movie, though, is that I just don't like the posters and the box art and all that. Like, I just don't think any of it does the film justice. And even if you don't like the story and you think it's boring, it's still amazing as an animated film. Yeah, you don't expect any bad animation from a Pixar film, but these characters are constantly like moving and floating around. That's like a lot of things to do. It's a lot harder than just having a character stand there. This film had a crazy time in the theater too. Like, first it's a flop, then it's great. But it's like This whole thing of people trying to go back to the movie theaters after COVID and after having all these other films go straight to Disney Plus, and that whole feeling of why pay an extra $100 for the family to go to the movie theater when we can just wait to watch it at home for another service we're already paying for every month? Also, it's an original idea and not a sequel, so I always like to support a original idea. Anyway, if they ever made an Elemental 2, I would like Ember and Wade to have an obsidian baby. Bye.